Hello, good evening to all. Today, I would like to welcome Preeti Khare, who is a relationship coach and law of attraction expert, to tell you a little more about Preeti. Preeti Khare, she's an MBA from and MS from Central Michigan University, USA, and also an internationally certified ICF ACC coach. She has been an HR professional and has worked in multinationals in the US, UAE, and in India. And she is currently a speaker trainer and a life transformation and relationship coach. She also wears many other hats. She is the MP State President of the Wiki Coaching Council. She is empaneled as a transformational coach with some of the universities in India, where she is coaching students and faculty dealing with current uncertainty, bringing them to clarity, confidence, and comfort. So, without further delay, let us get into the interview with a small forward introduction. Uh, all of us know that relationships which are harmonious and healthy are important to lead a successful and fulfilling life. And yet, many of us choose to ignore the warning signs of unhealthy relationships and may not do anything about them or seek help from an expert. And today we have a relationship coach and an expert here who can guide us and tell us how to maintain harmonious relationships at work and in life so that we can lead healthy, happy, successful, and fulfilling lives. So let me start with your early career, Preeti. You started as an HR professional and worked in several multinationals and then made a career shift. So, what motivated you to move from HR to relationship coaching? And how do you find your journey so far?
Yeah. Thank you, first of all, Chitra, to have me on this platform. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. To answer
Welcome.
to your question, uh, HR, yeah. So I was always in the HR space, and worked as you mentioned, in different countries. But when I came to India in 2017, there was already something happening. How sometimes how we ignore our inner voice. So there was something brewing inside of me for some time. Having done my MS, repeating it, having done actually my MBA and then repeating my MS in 2016. Then 2017, when I came back, I was not sure what is that is missing in my life actually. And there was a constant, I would go to work. So I joined a job when I came back to India, but there was a constant thing that, after work, when I would come back home and having a good position, though it was like, something that was brewing. And each time I would come home, it was feel like, what is that I want to do in life? What is that I'm missing? So I might be very good doing this HR thing. I was in an advisory position working for a company here in Bhopal, and then would come back home dissatisfied. So I was trying to figure out what is that is going to give me that satisfaction, that meaning and purpose. So I started working towards, discovering myself a little more, in the personal development space. I was always very interested, I think. But then with this, when I shifted to India, I think it increased even more, and I kept on working towards the personal transformation side, which was more of mindfulness, spirituality, personal development, and all of that. And then slowly I figured out that there is a bigger meaning and purpose. That is, my calling. I saw it in coaching. So I was like, okay, this is one place where what I'm looking for is like something bigger than me, creating that impact on people's life, creating that shift, the way people think and live. And and having said that, I was all through working on myself, Chitra. As I said about the transformation, so I was all through working on myself and figured it out for myself that it's way too blissful. uh, Once we begin to reflect about life in general, about what we are doing here on this planet, and profound questions like that. So then I actually got the certification, the ICF certification in the coaching area, and then began to coach. But yes, relationship coaching is something that I came to because of my own personal interest as, in the relationship, because I feel that for happiness, At the core of happiness, it is always the relationship. So people are happy and happier and happiest because of the relationships, and they're miserable to the core because of the relationship. So across countries, I found something very, very common, that people are happy or sad because they have, not so good or failing relationships. So that's how the coaching happened to me.
So, really been a rewarding journey for you so far. And you specialize in helping people build meaningful relationships, both at work and at home. So,
Chitra, I lost you.
mm.
Chitra?
So we will edit this
Yeah.
part.
Okay.
So I was saying that you've hit the nail on the head actually. Without fulfilling and happy relationships, you are unable to function successfully, even at work. And at home, obviously, there is a lot of tension and stress, and you are unable to take your daily life forward. So, absolutely right. And I think this would have been a very rewarding journey so far for you,
It was.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, you specialize in helping people build meaningful relationships. So, what's your advice to people when they want to seek expert advice? What is the one thing you would tell them about how to build and maintain meaningful relationships?
Chitra, one advice, as you asked, is going to be a little difficult for me, but I can, talk about a couple of things which are very, very important in the relationships. One, of course, as we know, and then especially during this COVID times, we have seen even more that when we were like, put together, in this space wherever we are, I think one thing which is very, very important is each one of us being able to have our own space, a little space, which is very, very important, so that we value and respect that. It shouldn't be that this person is working from home, so your work is not important, mine is, and so I shouldn't be disturbed, and you can afford to be disturbed. So I think very clear demarcation of the space and place of work, and also division of labor in some sense, wherein, okay, so and so time, if I have an important meeting, so maybe you can take it up from on the house front, or towards the kids or the parents or whoever. The second one is, of course, investing time. And when I say invest time, I actually mean invest in the relationship, actually, which is both time and depth, both. So you invest time, and then get the fruits of it. So there was a famous research, Chitra, that I would like to talk about. It was done by a researcher called by the name of Hall, and he talked about, actually it takes 60 hours to cement any relationship or a friendship also. 60 hours. So now we can think about it, that we have to be very intentional, very, very intentional in spending the time. So it is also very beneficial to take that responsibility to kind of invest time on purpose, take that time out, which is away from work, away from the gadgets, and really quality time. Not just to say that it is quality time, but really quality time, where we are actually investing the time, but also going deep, trying to get to know that person, right? So many times it happens that, especially in the relationships which are like, a spouse says, or a friends, girlfriend, boyfriend, in those terms, we invest that time and energy in the relationship in the beginning, but we kind of just let it go the way it is going after a few years, and that's the biggest. So I think keeping that constant pace, it shouldn't be like it is too high in the beginning and it suddenly slashes down. Keeping a constant pace and really investing that time and energy, uh, time wise and depth wise, to kind of sustain it beautifully is
That's right. So
one piece of advice.
it's
Yeah.
rather like a plant, right? You have to
Yes.
water it and nourish it for it in order to grow. And in the beginning, when we get a young plant home, we give it a lot of care and attention and love. And over a period of time, somehow we start taking things for granted, or life and its whole business of work, etc., takes over. And you do not have the time. So you rightly said that. To summarize, I think time, maintaining space and boundaries, alignment, and respect are
Yes.
very important keys to
Yes.
maintain and having harmonious relationships.
Mhm.
Right. So one more question I wanted to ask is, especially since you worked in so many countries, is that in India, is a relationship coach actually accepted as such? Because abroad, this has been quite a trend for a long time, and people do not hesitate to go to a relationship or even a dating coach. But
Yeah.
in India, it was quite a new concept. And even today, I think dating coaches, people hardly go. But do they approach you? Is it accepted as an approach to maintaining a healthy relationship, or do people think that we can manage our own relationships? We don't need to call in an expert. So, what's your view?
Yeah. Beautiful question, Chitra. And very much contextually, you mentioned that, in the Western world, it's pretty acceptable to be very, very open about your relationship. You can talk about it. You can say it's not working. It sucks and stuff like that. But in India, it's a taboo. We kind of uh, talk more about the longevity of the relationship rather than the
Right.
quality of that, right?
Right.
So
Right.
we are all, how long are you in the relationship, whether you are, in the, like for our parents, in some households you can very well see that, parents have been living separately in different rooms for years now, but they're still together. So I think
That's right.
longevity is one thing. uh, yes, to answer your question, people are opening up, especially in the bigger cities, metros. People are opening up. They want to sort of work upon it. They recognize it, acknowledge it, that there is an issue, and then instead of taking the last resort, which is go to the divorce and do all of those or separate, they want to give it a try. In the tier 2 cities where I am in, like Bhopal or other cities like that, we still are in the phase we are actually trying to create that awareness of coaching, first of all, because coaching per se also is not quite a domain which is very well understood by people. People
Right.
know it a little bit, but they fairly do not understand, and they so many times keep confusing between the counseling and coaching. And counseling, even for the counselors, when you talk about going to a counselor, whether it is a kid who you talk to or whether it is a spouse that you talk to, if you talk to them about consulting a counselor, there is a huge taboo attached to that.
That's right.
They think that, okay, you have to have a condition or something is not going right, your relationship is not working well. So people avoid going even to the counselor. Now, slowly, it is coming to the limelight, coaching, wherein we are trying to make people understand that coaching is not really about having some issue or having a problem that you have to approach us. It could only be where you are in your relationship, but where you want to really foresee yourself. Like, what is the relationship goal? If today I am, say, wherever I am in my relationship, do I see myself really becoming better in that relationship? Is a question. So we are kind of spreading that awareness that you don't have to have a issue. You can simply have a dream or a goal for your relationship, or for transformation also,
Right.
any kind of coaching. So I think it is, people
That's right.
are becoming aware. And to answer your question, that people do approach me, yes, now through social media, because in these times physical things are happening less. What we are doing mostly is virtual. So a lot of workshops and a lot of webinars and seminars that I do, and the panels, I think that is creating also that aura where people have begun to understand that there is something called relationship coach. There are people like that you can approach if there is something wrong. So I mean, I would, and the confidentiality being the prime thing in coaching. I would not like to name, but just 3 days back, somebody approached me, online, just seeing the profile and a doctor from somewhere, and then she was like, okay, I just want to explore this coaching with you relationship, because I'm very happy in my relationship. And I totally loved it, Chitra, because saying that I'm happy in my relationship, but I really want to go further in that to kind of build it with my mate, is a phenomenal thing now in today's scenario. So things are changing. I would not say that the change is very, very rapid, but it's going to slowly come for sure. People do
That's right.
approach me for the relationship as well. Yeah.
Good. So it's like investing in yourself, right? So
Yes.
similarly, we need to invest in the relationship and
Absolutely.
somehow not let it stagnate or plateau. Because often, it seems to be going up in the initial phases, then it seems to be plateauing. And many
Yeah.
of us kind of accept that
Yeah.
it has plateaued, or get
Yeah.
into that comfort zone and say, okay, it's going on fine. There's absolutely nothing bad which is happening. So unless
Yeah.
there is abuse or unless there's violence, people really think it's fine. Okay, we are friends. We are living in the same house and it's fine. They don't really seek help. But I do think that when you have an expert coming in, you can elevate relationships and probably
Absolutely.
make sure that
Mhm.
the initial harmony and the initial comfort and warmth
Yeah.
lasts even
Absolutely.
later, and you don't kind of disintegrate into strangers or living in separate rooms and not really sharing your life. So
Yes.
that's good. So do you think that, coming to the next question,
Uh-huh.
millennials are more accepting of relationship coaches, and it's the older lot, maybe some people of our age, who are not so accepting? What's your view?
Yeah. So very rightly said again. Since millennials are so uh, involved with the social media, I would use the word involved because they really are involved. Yeah. So it is, they get access to all kind of things that are coming up new. So going on YouTube, really figuring out various things. So multiple things keep coming for them. It's not so much for our generation, Chitra, because we, I think, do not get enough time to browse so much with other things that we're doing in life. So yes, millennials. And secondly, also one thing which is very strange, and I like to talk a lot about it, is also that they're far more
Accepting.
aware aware of the fact that, I do not want a relationship that sucks, probably because of the previous generation and generations that they've seen in their own
That's right.
houses. So they want it to be a blooming relationship, a nicer relationship, and their concepts are very clear around relationship. They're either you are in that or you're out of
You're
it.
not, yeah.
Yeah. So it is because you're in that, they make all the efforts. They're more accepting of the fact that yes, if I am in a relationship, what can I really do to make it better? So they do approach people like us, and they have lots of questions, how they can work. And they, the other thing also that I would like to tell about millennials, and that's just so wonderful, that they are also willing to practice and take those steps, when you talk about, because there is no sense of lethargy. It's like, okay, no, if something has come out during the session, and there's certain strategies that we in a coaching session come up with towards the end of the session, they are willing to work with their heart and soul in that I want to put my best. I approached you because I want to make it better. So I think I would call that they are more open to make changes, whether it is in themselves or, trying to bring some changes in the relationship, the patterns that they're falling. So yeah.
Right. So you mean to say that they are more accepting, less judgmental, more willing to work on themselves
Sure.
and improve things which they feel maybe limiting their
Yes.
growth in
Yes.
relationships, and
Absolutely.
limiting their relationships from becoming better and more harmonious.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So, what do you think are the common mistakes people make in their close relationships, both at work and in life? For example, now coming to work also, you have a relationship with your superior, you have a relationship with your CEO, you have a relationship with your peers, colleagues, and you spend 9-10 hours at work. Okay, now we don't go to work, but we are on Zoom with our colleagues for the better part of the day. And so those relationships are equally crucial in our lives. So, what do you think are the common mistakes? First, let's go into what are the common mistakes they make at work, and then we will go on to what are the common mistakes we make in our family and close relationships at home.
Yeah. Beautiful question again, Chitra. So I think one thing which will go across both the sides of it, whether it is professional or personal, is actually drawing those healthy boundaries. And
Right.
I think culturally, we do not know how to do that very well. We have not been trained, we have not been conditioned to do that. So we have seen our parents a certain way, that okay, this is a patriarchal society, so there's father coming in, and a certain way we see them, that they're served, they do their own things. I mean, they do, people do things for them. uh, Women are more subdued, and there is a way, the patriarchal society has been operating. So not every household has changed. The change is coming in the families, but not every household has changed. So I think being able to set that healthy boundary whether it is man or a woman, both of them, if they are vocal about it, if they're vocal about it and they talk about it, that okay, say for example, I gave you that example, Chitra, wherein I said that if two people currently in the current scenario, when two of us are working, whether it is you, my husband or myself, we should be able to communicate between two of us that maybe between 3 to 5 I have a say an
Important
interview with
meeting.
Chitra, yeah, so I will not be able to get up or something, and that person also should be able to communicate. We cannot assume is the point. We cannot assume the other person that okay, we maybe said certain things or blabbered in the morning that I'm busy from 3 to 5, and people should be understanding and accommodating. So I think assumption is one of the biggest mistakes that we actually do. So not assuming, but really giving that clear cut uh, communication, putting it across what you want is going to be far better. It will be far more harmonious. So
Right.
one is that creating that healthy boundary. Then the second thing is that being able to communicate about that healthy boundary is one very important. So third thing I would talk about when I'm talking about communication is people need to be communicated in a certain way. And I think we forget and we have not been taught that too, Chitra. We just want to talk to everybody in the language that we know, the language that we have learned, right? We do not really work hard towards understanding what could be the language of the person that we are interacting with. When I say that, in our relationship, whether you say coaching or relationship area, we talk about a concept called love language and apology language. And there are beautiful books by Gary Chapman, and he talked very beautifully about the love language and the apology language, wherein he says that you need to communicate in a language that the person understands, which means the love language should be understood. So, for example, I will tell you that what do I mean by love language? So, for me, the love language that I would want my spouse or mate or whoever to communicate to me with could be, little physical, which is, a little hug, a cuddle, or something which is like 3, 4 times a day. That is something that I will say, oh, he loves me, or having that very quality time with each other, sitting just with each other, no gadgets, nothing. That is love language for me. So if somebody does that for me, I feel loved, I feel heard, I feel accepted and validated. Now for my husband, it could be a cup of tea. You give him 4 hugs in a day, doesn't matter. You give, if you have not
Not given him his
communicated,
tea.
if you have not given him that tea, you've lost,
So I think it's called acts of service, right? Gary Chapman calls it acts
acts
of
of service.
service.
Absolutely, absolutely. So
And then physical touch and affirmations. And there are 5 love languages, if I'm not wrong,
yes,
right?
yes.
And
So he
similarly,
talked.
apology. Yeah, apology
Yeah,
is, there are various ways in which people want an apology, right? We think that
correct.
the way we are apologizing is right, but
Yes,
it may
yes,
not be so. Somebody may
yes.
want you to make up for what you've done, or rather,
Yes,
if you've done something wrong, you have to do something to make it right, or you have to at
correct.
least prove that
Yeah,
you are capable of setting things right. And in many
absolutely.
cases, just a simple sorry may not be enough. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the love
Yeah.
languages, the languages of apology, all are important. But at work,
Mhm.
how do you think this translates into, how do we use this at work?
Yeah. So at work, again, as I said, I began with that setting up that healthy boundary. So how much can you take, for example? So if your employer or your boss or supervisor, whoever it is, if he has seen you not really voicing what makes you uncomfortable,
Right.
right? If he has not observed any of those, what do you think it's going to happen, Chitra? It's going to be always that if you are given certain amount of work, maybe tomorrow if you don't complain, it'll be more work. Third day it'll be
Yes.
even more, or certain expectations. If not
Right.
work, certain expectations, right? But if you do not know how to communicate and set that healthy boundary that beyond this, it is not okay with me. I cannot handle more than this. Maybe whether it is work or whether it is something else, a gesture that is not appropriate for you. right? So just communicating to that person and setting that healthy boundary is appreciated in the work. If you do not voice it, we can't expect other person to really understand what's going on in our minds. So I think one is setting that healthy boundary. Second is being very transparent works. So when I say transparent, people think that covering or wearing certain mask or showing themselves in a certain way is going to please your boss or something. It's
Of course.
all very, very seems fake. It's not okay to do that. And people do understand that. We all are adults. We understand what's happening. So I think if we can be very, very, we can divulge and be open about what is that we are not capable of, or what is that our weakness is. I think it is pretty well accepted and appreciated in current scenario. People like that openness, people like that authenticity, people like to respect you for who you are. And then rest can be left that okay, you can upskill yourself, you can learn with grow with the organization. There's so, I mean, organizations are no more like now, redundant in that sense. Every organization is becoming now pretty much a learning organization, right? There are multiple programs that keeps happening, multiple workshops for the employees. So I think it's important to take that risk of opening up and being very transparent and saying that okay, this is something that I don't know. It's okay to say that I don't know, right?
So
But
basically, you're saying that setting boundaries, having a healthy respect for your colleagues and your manager, and vice versa, not making assumptions, communicating clearly, and also being honest
yes,
about not knowing certain things and needing help or support
yeah,
in fulfilling certain tasks. These are the keys
yes,
to having a healthy working relationship.
yes,
But yet,
yes,
I think women at the workplace, we still suffer from the same problems of
mhm,
submissiveness, not being able to speak up, not being able to communicate in meetings, because we feel that maybe my point is not really so relevant, and maybe people won't listen to me, or somebody has already said what I was going to say. So we have
mm,
all these confidence issues, and we keep wondering whether am I going to sound like an idiot? So should I
mm,
speak or not? And even when
yeah,
we are told to be assertive about
yeah,
asking for a raise, asking for a promotion, we wait till we have 100% of the qualifications, or we've met 100% of the criteria for
yeah,
that particular raise or promotion before we even go and talk to our managers.
yes,
Whereas I think men, not to say that they will not perform, I'm saying that they would probably be 60%, 60% there, 70% there, and yet they would have the confidence to ask for that raise or ask for that promotion and
yes,
get a clear answer. And we somehow seem to be lacking in that. So
true,
what's your suggestion there then again? What about women at the workplace?
yeah,
Specifically, is there some advice for them?
yeah. So um I think lot of it that you spoke already, Chitra, which is like, I am not good enough,
Right.
or, in front of men, these people are better equipped, they're better educated, they're better experienced. All of those are the internal chatters that we have, and that's where coaching becomes very, very important, right?
Right.
And currently, what I am doing, or what we are doing as coaches in MP state also and beyond, of course, is about creating this awareness that you need to reach out to coaches, you need to seek some help, because this is not about anybody else thinking about you. We blame men so often. Some of it is there, I agree, I mean, but most of it is in our own heads, in our own psyche,
That's
that
right.
we kind of talk to ourselves a lot more than anybody talks to us. So it is like, uh, you know uh, the advice would be to actually think about it, sit back and reflect. Think about, have maybe take a pen and paper and really think about your strengths, think about the values that you carry, think about your experience, the skills, the knowledge that you have, compare it with people around you, and see that you are no less. It's just your self confidence that is holding you back, your self limiting beliefs that are holding you back. It's nothing more than that. And then probably being able to muster that courage, that what is that I'm actually compromising for, or what is that why should I not be speaking up, things of that nature. The second thing which they should understand, women should clearly understand, is that there are now coaches like that who are especially, and there is now there are too many of them, I would say, working for women, and the organizations which work typically for women and run by women. So it's very, very comfortable that you can actually go and talk to these people about what are the issues with you. Meaning, in the career progression, it is not only other people's fault or your supervisor's fault or somebody else's fault. It is sometimes to sit back and reflect, where is it that I am not able to muster that courage? Where is it that I am lacking, or what is that I am talking to myself, is the most important and profound question. So there is help available, is in my going to be my advice. There is help available, there are coaches available, women coaches or men, they do a fantabulous job with actually coaching anybody. So approach those people, seek some help, and then get out of that mindset. I think it is all an issue of the mindset. Once we come out of that, I work a lot, Chitra, for the mindset part. And as you mentioned in the beginning, it is working in the field of law of attraction for a long time. So it is like a lot of women, if I have to talk about even homemakers, if we were to think of, they keep thinking at home. They will keep sitting at home and keep judging themselves a lot. They will talk to themselves in their head. They know, how can I do? I have 15 years. I've been sitting at home. How will I be able to step out? Who's going to look after the house? If I will tell my in-laws or my husband like that, how
What
are they
will they
going to
say?
take it? Yeah. How? So all of those, they are all in your head. You have never tried talking it out. Now, here is the time where your goals and your dreams are important. And why do you want to? This is one life that we get. And when I said that I work with women like that, it is about manifesting what you really want and desire. So it is nothing but the change of mindset. It is nothing but really working on yourself and working on anybody else or your environment or circumstances for that matter. So it is pretty much one advice, that please seek out for help and sit and reflect, what is holding you back. I think those profound questions, you will get the answers from within. And that's what coaching is based out of, that your answers are within. But sometimes maybe you're not able to find out those answers by yourself. Reach out for help, reach out to different coaches. They might just help you discover yourself in a way you have never ever imagined in life. You'll be able to work, you'll be able to really negotiate at home very well, and not just negotiate meaning with a fight or a something, but really be able to communicate across that how important you're, and everybody values, believe me, everybody does value. If you are going to stand on your own, living for your dreams, and if you know how to communicate properly and set those healthy boundaries, I think 2 3 things are very, very important. If you know how to do this, nothing can stop you. You can
So
totally
something
be
really
unstoppable.
important you said,
Yeah.
sorry, something really important you said on manifesting.
Yeah.
I believe so. If you believe in yourself and if you have faith that you can get success and you deserve success, you will
Yes.
manifest that success.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think a lot of us limit ourselves and don't believe in ourselves. And that is why we are not able to work towards success and we are not able to manifest and achieve that success. So really
Right.
important point.